The spotlight on workforce is more important than ever right now. We have more demand than there are apprenticeship opportunities. So as I started to think about how we can alleviate that, and people who want to be apprentices, who understand that it's a job, that it's intentional training, that it's long-term versus short-term, we created the platform initially as a way to support the easy creation and management of apprenticeship program. We packed that into an apprenticeship in a box solution. I like to call it, it's like an apprenticeship CRM.
Hi, today we have Carlos Vazquez. He's spent the last 2 decades at the intersection of education and advanced technology. He's been a part of some successful workforce initiatives. He's chair of the STEM Advisory Board for Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and he recently launched GoSprout, a workforce digital infrastructure platform. We're glad to have you here today, and we're going to talk about innovation and talent development. Here at Opportunity Miami, we're imagining the Miami of 2040, focused on talent, focused on resilience, and focused on entrepreneurship. Welcome to Opportunity Miami.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Appreciate it.
Let's talk about how and why you got started in this space. I know that you're originally a New Yorker, and you grew up in the Bronx, but can you tell us about the trajectory to being this workforce leader?
Yeah, no, for sure. Really excited about what's happening in Miami. I think the spotlight on workforce is more important than ever right now. But I moved to Miami in 2012. Originally from New York, moved to San Francisco, started working at a national nonprofit called Year Up. They launched a site here in Miami-Dade. And so I got the call as one of the senior leader IT instructors who spoke Spanish too. They said, "Do you want to go to Miami?" I said, "You know what? That sounds good." I started to research a bit about the reputation of Miami-Dade College, the leadership at the time, Eduardo Padron, and Lisette Nieves, who was our leader over at Year Up. And I just felt there was like a golden opportunity to help create or reimagine the college partnership through the lens of Year Up and workforce. And so I moved here 12 years ago now, and since then, different initiatives, and as you mentioned, more recently launching GoSprout, which has brought a lot of these things I've done over the years into kind of one main campaign.
Tell us a little bit about GoSprout. What is it and how does it work?
Yeah, so one of the things that the spotlight is on education is pre-apprenticeship. And so the concept of apprenticeship has been around for a long time, medieval times. But in the early 1900s is when apprenticeship, there was a bill passed to support businesses in creating these programs that are meant to have internal pipeline development. And unfortunately, I would say it's we only have close to 800,000 apprentices in the U.S., less than 0.3%. Wow. And so it's been tough to kind of kickstart and get employers on board. And people who want to be apprentices, who understand that it's a job, that it's intentional training, that it's long-term versus short-term, the demand isn't met with the supply. So we have more demand than there are apprenticeship opportunities. And so as I started to think about how we can alleviate that, I realized that there was a lot of time and bandwidth, and those are not good words for employers who want to create and hire, right? They want to hire the top talent. And so we created the platform initially as a way to support the easy creation and management of apprenticeship programs. So this world that's always full of just, a lot of hours, a lot of administration and compliance, we packed that into an apprenticeship in a box solution.
Tell us more. Apprenticeship in a box.
Yeah,
what does that mean?
So, one of the challenges people face when they hear about apprenticeship is, how do I get started? And normally when you go online, you end up seeing these, long 90-page, toolkits. And so we really operationalize that. So if you're an employer and you have an occupation, and let's say, for example, you want to hire a cybersecurity specialist, and cybersecurity, growing, emerging industry, but how many employers have cybersecurity specialists on staff? As employers think about emerging occupations, apprenticeship is a good way to basically put your existing, talent to manage and train that next frontier of cybersecurity specialists. And so what we've done is we've instituted connections with the Department of Labor's database to grab occupation. So what's normally a spreadsheet-driven world, we've given them this tool. So I like to call it, it's like an apprenticeship CRM. When we talk about demystifying it, it's almost like how a bill becomes a law. right? So when you want to create a registered apprenticeship program, you have to go through your local Department of Labor representative. You submit some paperwork. It goes through approval, and that can take anywhere between 2 and 3 months. And so again, it's not for the faint, but at the same time, when you do it, you unlock tons of benefits. So first, it's a proven model. So it's not just the bottom line benefits, but it's proven. Having someone directly learning from a mentor, a subject matter expert, over at least a year is going to give you that bottom line impact you need, because 92% of apprentices, when they finish, stay with their employer. So it builds loyalty. So you can get up to 60% wage reimbursement once you create your program, have it approved, and fill out the appropriate paperwork to now tap into that. And I think that's that sustainability piece, right? Because once you create a program one time, it's always there. You just have to have, and unfortunately what happens is, 1% of the people who go through it really finish it. And I say 1% because it's something that people see all of this administrative requirement, this lift, and they're like, nah, not for us. And that's what we wanted to do with GoSprout. We wanted to make sure that the tool was plug and play. That's the beauty of tech. It's like, how do we use tech to fix problems? So it makes the user experience seamless. They don't feel the same bandwidth, and they can tap in directly to those benefits, such as wage reimbursement.
So you hit on, this is an effective way to train talent at the caliber that you want.
Right.
It provides loyalty because people now have a skill and a background that they didn't have before.
Right.
And they learn how to do it on the job with the people. And then it's also cost efficient because there's support to offset the cost.
Right.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Are apprenticeships limited to primarily blue-collar jobs?
That's part of the world that we're kind of destigmatizing, right? Like historically in the U.S., apprenticeships are what we call the traditional occupations, the welder, the HVAC, carpenter. My father actually was a carpenter in a union. Okay. And so that's what we saw growing up. And a lot of times people assume that those folks were the ones who couldn't hack it in another environment, like in college, right? But in fact, those people were onto something, right? Because they, a lot of times, like I said, apprenticeship programs, you don't pay for your schooling, and you're getting directly trained by the employer. So what you first mentioned, that expertise that they're learning is coming from your person who hired you. Yeah. So that's where you see that loyalty piece, and over time, what has happened is people are like, can we apply this to this sector? And so this emerging world of apprenticeship is in the non-traditional. So anywhere from tech jobs, cybersecurity, IT, finance, accounting. The model fits for any occupation. We just need more employers to kind of buy in and become educated on it.
How can tech play a role, and what should tech's role be in democratizing this access to workforce?
It's a great question. I think anytime we're faced with these big moments, and I call this, we're in a moment. I like to call it the experiential learning moment, because it's really hard for post-secondary institutions to keep up. Even just training institutions, AI. We're even in quantum. We're looking at these things are moving so fast that by the time it gets to get approved for a textbook and make it back to the classroom, something needs to be changed again. What we have noticed is that if we can create better synergy, better communication pathways between industry, job, and education, which is why I'm so passionate about what we're doing with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Dr. Lupe Diaz and the Career and Tech Ed team, what we're able to do is overnight, they can now say, we heard this, let's do this, let's bring this to the students. And so I think that's another piece that's really, in South Florida, Miami, you're looking at 1 million learners in the region, right?
Wow.
From Broward, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, and then Miami-Dade College. There are not a lot of ecosystems in the U.S. like that, with that much per capita of hungry, motivated learners who want good jobs.
That's right. We set a goal through Opportunity Miami with the Academic Leaders Council. The Academic Leaders Council is a group that we manage of the presidents of Florida Memorial, Florida International, University of Miami, Barry University, St. Thomas University, Miami-Dade College, and the superintendent of schools. And we set a goal last year with them of growing the population with an apprenticeship or a 2-year credential from that level mentally from 45% of the population to 65% of the population. We wanted to do that by 2040. But we know to get there, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we also know to get there that we've got to actually change culture and and people need exposure earlier on.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about Miami EdTech
Yeah.
and what you're doing to, prepare the next generation?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the initiative. I love bringing together the coalition. I think Tony Allen, when he was here, he noticed it. He said, you looks like you all have this one team and one goal. And I was like, that's right. He saw it and he felt it. I think for us at Miami EdTech, I started off my formal career as a fifth grade teacher. I went from 5 years in sales, actually working in a union environment, a sheet metal environment, and then basically, 3 months later, I'm thrown in a classroom with 30 10-year-olds. It was amazing. It was awesome. It was like finding a fountain of youth. And so what I saw was how hungry and eager they were to learn. And this was a school in the Bronx. I grew up in the South Bronx, and they didn't have the same resources. The principal fought to get them devices, and in training the teachers there, because I came in with my shiny CS degree, I was like, I want to help out, right? And so training the teachers there, I landed upon a model. My theory of change was tied to training teachers to bring CS into the classroom. And so Miami EdTech's first mission, through a partnership with Teach for America and through several other ventures, we first train teachers to pass industry certification courses. There's a big crisis in STEM talent, so helping teachers, especially teachers who look like our student population, who can, connect and relate to students and show them computer science. So Miami EdTech, over the past 5-6 years, we've been working closely with the school district to help support their training initiatives, help increase computer science access. For example, Booker T, a couple years ago, we helped bring them the first computer science program that they've ever had in history.
Wow.
So, those are the initiatives that we take a lot of pride in because, there's talent there, as we always talk about. And so we meet them where they are. And so Miami EdTech, through the teacher training, we realized that there was an opportunity to do the same for the rest of the community. So we've been focused on workforce. As a matter of fact, we just launched the Workforce.Miami platform in partnership with Miami-Dade County. And that's really what's on the horizon right now, thinking about how do we level the playing field for everyone who's looking to kind of level up in their life.
What advice would you have for us here at the Beacon Council and Opportunity Miami in terms of how we can support the efforts, but also we've got a lot of access to industry.
Yeah.
What should industry be doing to accelerate these efforts, and what's in it for them?
I think you are strategically positioned to be this great convener. Because a lot of times, in innovation, there's that danger that something might not work, right? You hope that it does, and you try to, address any of the barriers to innovation not working. And I think one of the biggest things you could do is to bring people together and manage expectations.
That's right.
Things don't happen overnight, especially in workforce. So if you're going to have a cultural shift as an employer and introduce apprenticeship, it's not like an internship that that first day you can say, interns, bring them on tomorrow or next week. Apprenticeship takes time, but the ROI is there. The ROI is proven.
You actually hit on two big areas that are critical for Opportunity Miami. Our three areas are resilience and sustainability, talent, and entrepreneurship. And you really, on the talent and on the entrepreneurship side, you're kind of at the front of the pack. We envision the Miami of 2040 to be a place that's, to get to where we want it to be, we've got to do the work today.
Right.
So where are we by 2040 as it relates to talent, as it relates to entrepreneurship, and what are some of the critical things that we need to do as a community to make it a reality?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think that we have to be aware of the landscape around us, so nationally, and how that impacts, for example, college enrollment, admissions. This generation, they're calling the tool belt generation. A lot of the infrastructure jobs that we are seeing, energy, fiber, laying of fiber to replace a lot of old infrastructure. We have to really evaluate. I mean, the top 5 occupations of today that are hiring in didn't even exist 10 years ago, right? Like prompt engineers, things with AI. And so how do we ensure that bridge from not just college, not just high school, middle school? How do we ensure that alignment so that if you get to high school and you want to choose, many people choose working after high school as a necessity. They got rent to pay. And so I was one of those. I worked graveyard shift in college, Then I couldn't get the job and the degree I was promised, and so a lot of that has led me to really think about the whole continuum from home with parents who also need digital literacy, the students, elementary, whose teachers need to be trained to then train them. So like you mentioned, it's a lot of different parts of the ecosystem, and we need to support, especially on the nonprofit side, all of the supplemental work that nonprofits do in Miami-Dade we got a big engine. We got the 3rd largest school district, right? And so, and it's wide. And so I think the key thing, if we look backwards from 2040 is that it takes 5, 8, 9 years for us to make sure that someone can get a job that's high paying, right? And so with Workforce Miami, for example, we're targeting the ALICE population, people who are working, who are only paying enough to get by month to month.
Yeah.
What does it mean for them to level up, to go from an additional 20 to 40% salary increase? Typically that means new skills.
Yeah.
And so how do we create pathways that don't bring debt, which I think Miami-Dade College does a great job, and other colleges that are trying to be strategic with partnerships, corporate partners, scholarships. It's putting the whole continuum under a microscope, not just like segment.
For those that are interested in engaging with GoSprout or Miami EdTech, how can they do that?
Visit our website, miamiedtech.com or GoSprout.app. Both sites are there, or workforce.miami. Everything can kind of work backwards from there. We'd love to support and help demystify apprenticeship, which is through the support of several philanthropic organizations, Google, JP Morgan. We've been able to get fuel to help this work, because that's the other part, the fuel piece, the part where philanthropy, I think in a city and a county like Miami-Dade, they can see ROI. They can know that it's directly going to impact the front lines.
Absolutely.
So check out the website.
Thank you so much, Carlos Vazquez.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.